dreamed a dream last night, looking out this window at this exact tree. I saw a huge green, kind of humanoid figure, like a forest being, like the tree itself. And I was like, in the dream, I was like, cool, I'm glad you're there. And then I couldn't see him anymore, and I was like, I'll try to see you again. I think it means I'm supposed to work at this summer camp again this year and be in the woods. The woods and I miss each other. Maybe it's dreams like that, and just when you're out in the woods and you stare into the leaves for a long time. Thoughts like that led to Tolkien's tree beings, you know. What are they called? Those are always my favorite. And those movies. I haven't read the books. I will someday. Anyway, let's talk about a book from the paperback project that I just read. Woo! Again, this whole channel is nothing but an excuse to make me read this whole paperback case of literary fiction. It's about 200 books. One time I counted it and it was 189. I kind of think it's more now, because I've been adding to it and refining. And at one point I emptied half a shelf because it was all Shakespeare and P.G. Wodehouse. Actually, it was like a whole shelf. And then I had to fill that, and I got new old books. I'm trying to make the collection as diverse as possible, just as varied and complete a picture of what's available across time in literary paperback fiction. But I don't have super old ones in here because they're just fragile, and I think they should be kept in the antique case. I don't know. I'll think about that. Maybe a seagrass should be on there. It's pretty thin too. It's old, but that's kind of cool. It kind of makes the collection more interesting. I'm going to find a place for it. This one is by James Hilton, and I think he is literary. I do like how those four look there. Maybe I'll just leave that there. Well, I'm torn. This one's not there because it's a memoir. This one's nonfiction. Looks like it could be pulpier than the books on that case, but it's by James Hilton, who wrote Lost Horizon, and that's kind of a literary classic of a sort. It's inspired not one, but two good movies. I think it has one of my favorite titles, Lost Horizon. It's just pretty. I like it. Evocative. But let's look at this one. It's called The Life of Lazarillo de Tormes, His Fortunes and Adversities. And its author is unknown. There's theories. Some people think it was written by this guy. Some people think it was written by another guy. But it first appeared in 1554, even though the edition that appeared at that time seemed to make mention of another edition. So who knows? And it sounds like there's a notion that it may have been piecemealed together somewhat, that there was an original text and then there were parts added. Because I do kind of get that. As funny as it is when one of the chapters suddenly is just one page long, barely a paragraph, it does feel like a gear shift. Oh, what happened to our detailed narrator? And you get another chapter and a half or so, kind of like that. But this is considered the first formally picaresque novel. That means a roguish novel, the tale of a rogue. Not just a hero, though heroes are often rogues. I'm still kind of mad at Gilgamesh and Enkidu for killing the beast of the forest. Anyway, look at this beautiful paperback. It's so awesome. I looked up the designer. It's so beautiful. Look at it, that matte finish. I was reading this while working the front desk at a high school, and a colleague there, another worker in the admin there, commented on this book, and she would want to read it just because of how it looks. And that's how I felt about it. That's why I bought it. Still is kind of wow, it's pretty. But it's by Anthony Groves Rains. And I looked this guy up, and I want to collect all his classic works that have his covers. I think I might have a new book buying method. I'm going to seek out specific designers. And I'm transitioning aesthetically to a different kind of book appreciation. But then I will read the books. And they probably picked good books to do the cover for. This is a good book. It has merit. I like to think so. But he has a really interesting and, one might say, minor career, but it's I don't know. He had a children's book called The Tidy Hen, and it looks really cool, but it was published in the 50s, and I don't think it's had much of a life. I could be wrong. But the illustrations look great. They look like, the artist who did this cover to them. Anthony Groves Rains. And, there's a bit on the internet about him. There's even a YouTube video. It's like 12 minutes long. And that's a good summary of it. I recommend finding that. Oh, my neighbor is yelling for White Boy and Pretty Boy right now. I swear when I first moved in here, I was just like, I really hope those are dogs' names. And he's not yelling that across the parking lot at me. They were dogs' names. Anyway, this book is about a young kid. They don't give you a lot of detail about his age. After an initial description, it's kind of never mentioned. You assume he must be growing up. And then in the last chapter, he does get married. So, he must have been. He does seem a little more able as it goes on. But his masters are always horrible in one way or another. Even if they're good, they're, completely destitute and, have no way to feed him. First, he works for a blind man. And he tells about his parents. He works for a blind man. He works for a priest. He works for a poor squire. The poor squire has to live beyond his means to keep up appearances. He has land back in a place with a collapsing dovecote on it. And, but here he has nothing basically and eats the scraps that his servant begs. And Lazarillo is really not much of a rogue. I kind of felt like has this been boulderized a little bit over time and had his roguishness diminished? Is there a saucier translation somewhere? No, probably not. I think this is the standard text. But they kind of pull off a happy ending. And, this book was great. I really enjoyed it. It's very readable. It's like, oh yeah, I like reading books. I like a reminder of that, I think an ice cream truck is going by. Yep, ice cream van. Yeah, this area, because it has lots of apartments around a cul-de-sac. Let's go, boy. It gets ice cream trucks and people selling food from a cart and stuff like that. I'm like, that's great. Neighbors talk to each other. I'm like, a poor neighborhood has its benefits. Of course, there's a lot of shady biz going on around here. This was a quick read too, and almost every chapter I read made me want to read another chapter. It's compelling and funny. I literally laughed out loud and exclaimed at the book at a few points. Like a real nerd. Like a real bookish freak. Yeah, so what? I love books. I enjoy books. I'm involved by the experience sometimes. I spent a lot of time in solitude and camping and traveling and stuff. Books were my best friend, my only friend. At night they soaked up my tears. I don't know about all that, but probably. This is a cool, fun book. Let me tell you something about it. I did a ton of research. I read the whole 40-page introduction too, which was very interesting and talked about its authors and effects. It was banned by the Spanish government for being critical of priests and religious figures when they were kind of freaking out about religion there for a while. The Inquisition. But yeah, the 1550s. That's so crazy. And, the kid is just trying to eat and stay alive. I don't fault him for being a little scheming to drill a hole in the old man's box and say mice ate some bread so he can have something to eat and not die. I just want to remember this title. Since I read it now, I feel like I should remember the title. I'm going to be like, yeah, I read this book. But this book is literally mentioned in Don Quixote. There's a passage where it's talked about among characters. And this was an influence on Don Quixote. That's amazing. I had such a great experience reading Don Quixote once out when I was living out in the desert in Arizona in a 14-foot travel trailer by a cattle pond beneath a windmill. And I read that over a month, and it was so great. I love that book. I don't know, was it a month? I had a lot of stuff to do, too. I was always working on the property and writing. I wrote a novella, wrote a screenplay. Got engaged. That's what ended it. That and a big forest fire. I wrote an essay about all that called The True Book of Deserts. That is at their Unoya Review website. I can't remember if I mentioned Don Quixote or not. I think I did. Because I was literally tilting at windmills every day out there. I lived beneath a windmill. I had an exercise routine based around this windmill. Ha ha ha. And it worked. It was the only time I was in shape. It was a 1954 air motor windmill. Owls would perch on it every night. leave owl pellets. They really were cool. And there were these beetles that would always roll them away. And I was like, I've never been able to find anything online about those beetles. I wanted to, so I could mention it in an essay, but I'm like, did I see some zoological curiosity? Undocumented by science. Anyway, The Life of Lazarillo de Tormes. It's a good book. Maybe we should read a part. This channel could be called, hey, here's a book you might want to pick up if you ever see it. You'd probably like it. Because most people aren't going to like rush out and buy this book from this video, probably. But maybe you'll keep your eye open for it. Maybe you will rush out and buy it. Thrift Books is pretty amazing. They have everything on there. Maybe I'll use Thrift Books when I have a little dough to get all the Anthony Groves Rains books. There's a few cover artists I'm becoming aware of, and I'm like, what to own? But I want to own them, and I want to find like ways to display them. Like, find a place that sells frames that perfectly fit a paperback book. Maybe a lot of my books should be on the walls, yes. But in a way that makes they're still readable. I had to tape this one up. When you actually read a book, I don't know, books can be kind of fragile sometimes. Unless they're Dover books. Dover books last forever. Double Day. 1962 edition. Copy. Someone marked this book up before me. If I ever see a nicer copy, I'm gonna grab it. But it's got to be the same edition because I love the cover. Oh, this is still the introduction. The pencil is me, the pen is someone else. Someone quite rude, capable of significant actions either for good or evil. He usually enters life as a servant to some master, often as indigent and crafty as himself. There's a peripatetic quality to his servitude, for his passing from master to master, a continuous horizontal movement in quest of more abundant yet ever more elusive pittances with which to fill his stomach. So The Walking Dead, basically. The arc of this story is a flatline. Hunger becomes a persistent theme and the assuaging the main goal of his activities. No, but the arc of this story is not actually that. This guy goes through a lot of suffering. I don't know that he learns necessarily, but maybe he does. He learns not to put himself in situations where he's going to starve. Oh, and he's kind of violent sometimes. He gets away from his first master by basically pushing him over, and he cracks his head open, and he doesn't bother to investigate because a lot of people had already gathered around. So I guess, yeah, that is a pretty bad thing that he does right out of the gate. But this guy really was he was an abusive person, so I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I'd hardly finished saying it when the poor blind man hurled himself forward, charging like a billy goat. He'd even taken a step back so as to get a running start and jump better, and he flung himself into the air with all his strength and hit the pillar head first. It gave out a resounding note as though somebody had hit it with a big calabash, and he fell backward half dead with his head split open. You could smell the sausage, I said to him. Why didn't you smell the post? Smell it now, smell it now. As there were a lot of people coming to his rescue, I left him to their care and maintained a brisk trot till I got to the gates of the town. I was in Torrijos before night. I never found out what God did to him afterwards, and I never troubled to make inquiries. He may have killed somebody, and he's like a kid in the single digits at this point, so he's like the bad seed. But not really. He was just getting away from an abusive master who, it seemed like kind of self-defense there. It's fine. This book was a good time. I give it 5 bags of popcorn, for sure. It's, that's an at the cinema reference. Brilliant multimedia artwork. Yeah, read it. Check it out. It's a good time, and it's kind of got a happy ending. Things turn out okay for the guy, and that's nice. A Rogue's Tale. It feels literary. There's good lines. There's good insights. And yet it is definitely fun. It's really fun. It's old. It's cool to read old stuff and be like, oh, my mindset's a little tweaked right now. It's a little bit different than it was. You know? I'm kind of in like ye old medieval Spain for a second. And I mean, Anthony Graves, what great artwork. And here's what I wrote about him. Anthony Groves Rains, Irish, 1913 to 1993. See YouTube. Yeah, you got to watch that 12-minute YouTube video about Anthony Groves Rains. It's pretty interesting. His style's cool. Author, The Tidy Hand. He also did a cover of Lays of Courtly Love, a medieval verse romance, and his cover was from 1963. Also, The Origin of Attic Comedy, which was in 1961. That was also old. And he also did Hans Andersen's Fairy Tales 1950. I wonder if I have that book. This might be older than 1950, though. Yeah, this was owned by Belva Smith, by my dad's adopted mom. Feathers. Closed over them closely. Oh, no, this is way older. The binding is trash. I need to glue it. 1926. Never mind, this is way older. But this book is fun enough that I think I will reread it sometime. You know, but I don't have to for the paperback project. But I want to. I'm definitely keeping it. Definitely glad it's part of the old shelf. Okay, now it lives on the shelf. I have this out because I'm rereading The Secret Sharer from March real quick. I'm reading it every month of the year. And I've made 2 videos about it already. Not Heart of Darkness, just The Secret Sharer, because it's shorter, 16,000 words. And today I read a great scholarly article about The Secret Sharer also that is really illuminating my writing already. It was about the 3 strands of the original story, Conrad's life, which really mirrored the story, and this historical event on the ship, the Cutty Sark, which is like a real historic ship. And the author is like, what did he use? What didn't he use? Of this article, Daniel Curley. Read it on JSTOR. Which I found out today anyone with an email address can get 100 free articles on. So yeah, I got 3 email addresses. That's 300 articles. JSTOR, if you don't know, is this incredible academic online database with like scans of every obscure academic paper about any literary or historic or cultural or anthropological work. It's awesome. Probably scientific too. I don't know. Yeah, I bet. But I always thought of it as more of a humanities thing. Because that's my crowd, I guess. Anyway, that's why that one's out. But they do look nice together. Working on this case too. What if this channel was like, oh, read this book. Pay close attention to whatever dream you have tonight. Listen to the instructions of the dream. I'm not against any of that, but that would be a swerve. Appearing first in 1554, this short, mordantly satiric narrative of a small boy's adventures established the literary genre of the picaresque novel and introduced the picaresque hero to world fiction. Lazarillo's influence in subsequent picaresque works in Spain, France, England, and elsewhere gives this slender Renaissance masterpiece a unique and key position in the history of the novel. In this new translation, the distinguished poet W.S. Merwin has reproduced for English readers all of the sparkling humor and ironic bite of the original text. I bet that's true. An introduction for this edition by Professor Leonardo C. Morelos offers a full account of the history and nature of the picaresque genre and an appreciation of the importance of Lazarillo for both Spanish and world literature. Cover design by Anthony Groves Rains. I mean, I love the attention to detail, even like the frame around it. It's pretty. There he is, little Lazarillo de Tormes. And he's a really resourceful and interesting character. I guess this was influenced maybe by Till Eulenspiegel, which I do have. I guess I gave Till Eulenspiegel away. But here's this. I found the copy of Don Quixote I read. Got beat up a bit. Read in the desert in 2002. Sitting by fires. Your windmill in a cattle pond. In the dark. Don't buy more Wordsworth classics. They are full of typos. Probably still buy Wordsworth classics. There's too many of them that are great. Oh, it's sad. This needs taped up. But I will. What's up, kitty? Hi. So, we contemplate the book. Or something else.